on the disqualification cases against Bongbong Marcos.
Yung ating pong Kongreso, sana po pigilan ng Korte Suprema para po talagang manaig ang tunay na resulta ng Mayo 9. Dahil hindi po tayo papayag na may isa pong kandidato na disqualified at may isang kandidato na convicted na paparticipate at sasama at magiging isa sa mga kandidato sa Mayo 9, 2022.
I am inclined to say na medyo mahirap itong mangyari. Hindi ko nakikitang magti-TRO ang Supreme Court laban sa Kongreso dahil unang-una, nasa saligang batas, no, sa Constitution ang kapangyarihan ng Kongreso na bilangin ang boto at iproklama ang nanalong presidente.
I appeal to you, instead of pushing for your agenda of animosity, tulungan ninyo lang na humuna kami na pagtuunan at gamitin natin ang ating limitadong oras araw-araw.
Civil society leaders and human rights lawyers have elevated a case to the Supreme Court, seeking to cancel and declare as void the candidacy of presumptive President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Will the High Court come up with a decision prior to the official proclamation? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. We will be joined by our guests and the other chiefs when we return. Welcome to this midweek edition of The Chiefs. I'm Ed Lingao. Also with us, Ana Marie Pamintuan of the Philippine Star. Ami, what's your headline for tomorrow?
Siyempre yung proclamation ng Magic 12, ano? Pero meron din sa health, of course, papayagan na daw yung mga seniors sa frontline health workers to get the second boosters.
So pasok ka na doon.
Yeah.
Hindi.
Siyempre.
Sorry. Frontline health workers pala, hindi pala frontliners. Hindi, I'm not referring to senior citizen ko naman. Masyadong defensive eh. But yung Magic 12 book, we, of course, since last week naman, we knew already who were in the Magic 12. Eh. I
Yes.
suppose
No surprises there.
Yeah, no surprise there. The moving question, I suppose, that's coming up next is, sino kaya magiging SP, yung Senate President?
Yan. Well, tatlong names yung binabanggit, di ba? Si of course, Cynthia Villar yung nangunguna,
Yeah.
and Mig
Si Migs.
Subiri, and of course, Win Gatchalian is interested, di ba?
Tsaka si Cheese Escudero, umaamoy-amoy din.
Yes, medyo malayo-layo pa yan eh. We have another 2 months actually before election ng mga
Kita ka.
congressional leaders. Diba?
So yun. Well, I can hear na in the background the other topic that we have for today. Of course, well, we're not going to deal about the Senate today specifically kasi we want to move on to other important things like the cabinet appointments.
Yes.
The potential cabinet appointments.
Well, so far naman ilan pa lang yung nababanggit and one of them is our guest tonight.
Yeah,
Diba?
yung at least umamin na kinausap siya. Yung nga lang, kailangan pagmuni-munihan. So now joining us is Overseas Filipino Workers Advocate, Susan Ople. Ma'am, magandang gabi and welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Yes. Good evening, Ami. Good evening, Ka Ed.
Sarap ng ngiti ninyo.
Lagi naman,
Kaya
diba?
nga, it's always a pleasure to talk to you kasi ang sarap ng ngiti niyo parati. Whatever the news is or whatever the story is, you always have a ready smile. But ma'am, let me start off with that. Did you, I suppose when they offered you the position of Secretary of Migrant Workers, they also expected you to give them a ready smile. Pero at least for the moment, medyo tentative ang inyong sagot. Can you run us through what happened? Ano pong nangyari? Ano pong alok?
Yeah, sure. It was last Friday. Tumawag sa akin si Attorney Vic Rodriguez, inviting me to go to yung headquarters nila sa EDSA.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I went there. Siyempre, may konting kutob na rin ako on what will be discussed. And then, joining us were former DOLE Secretary Benny Laguesma and
Yes,
also Congressman Anton Lagdameo. So, doon muna kami sa HQ, and then Attorney Vic said na 6 p.m. We're invited to see.
Ma'am, nabili naman kami sa kwento nyo.
Anong gusto nyo?
The juicy part is the meeting.
Ha?
The juicy part is the meeting, hindi yung invitation.
Naaalala ko, masarap yung cropek. May cropek, may empanada. The incoming president was there. It was very warm. And marami na pag-usapan. So, isa sa mga na-bring up niya with regard sa Department of Migrant Workers, yung kagustuhan niya na makita na maging up and running. Kasi Ami and Ed, technically and legally, wala pa talagang department.
Opo.
May 3 requirements, di ba? Ma-publish yung IRR, which has been fulfilled. Magkaroon ng DBM-approved staffing pattern na wala pa.
Ayan.
And then, mahabol sa budget for 2023. So, these are the 3 requisites. And so, gusto niya rin na ma-deliver yon. And then, sabi rin nga niya, dito ako parang, kumbaga, na-impress din na bukod sa OFWs, gusto niya rin na maabutan ng tulong ng gobyerno and mga programa para sa mga anak at mga dependents ng OFWs.
Mhm.
So doon umikot yung usapan namin.
So may discernment ka na ba? Payag ka na? Bakit hindi outright pati yung pag-oo mo?
Alam mo naman, Ami, ang sarap din ng tahimik na buhay. I mean, sa totoo lang, ilang dekada na ako na nasa NGO work.
Yes.
So medyo I used to work with government, naging labor undersecretary na din naman ako. So alam ko, yung bang pagising mo, meeting, mamaya meeting, parang ganon, hindi mo hawak yung oras mo. So deciding factor din yung health ko. Sinulat ko naman yun sa column ko na 2 years ago, I had breast cancer. So, yun, mga factors din yun. Na-accelerate Ami and Kaed. To be honest about it, I was supposed to consult members of my family, including yung uncle.
Ay, teka. Naputol ata si ma'am. Okay, I think we have some technical difficulties because I understand Susan Ople is coming to us from out of town. So baka naputol yung kanyang linya. Anyway, Ami, can you hear me? Ami? I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
can't hear. There you
I
go.
can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Is
Diba?
Susan still
We
there?
can hear you.
I'm here. I'm
Okay,
here.
sorry.
Pakiulit na lang siguro. Ang tinanong ko kung bakit hindi
Yeah, sorry.
outright yung
We lost your audio eh.
niya.
Yeah, ang na-accelerate yung pag-reach out ko doon sa mga dapat kong hingan ng payo. I am now in the process of scheduling meetings, consultations with yung mga people I respect, people I know are very active in my field of labor migration, just to seek out yung advice nila.
Pero kung sakasakali, okay, whether you accept it or not, ano yung gusto mong makita dyan sa bagong department na yan? Kasi nung una medyo nagre-resist yung labor department, no? Sinasabi nila hindi naman yan kailangan. Pero sa tingin mo, ano yung pwedeng gawin yan? And kung sakasakali, ano ang dapat i-prioritize while it's being rolled out yung mga programa niya?
Naku, marami, Ami. Unang-una gusto ko talaga malinis na migration governance. Ibig sabihin wala dapat palakasan. Sa tagal ko na, alam ko naman may mga inaawitan na labor attaché,
Yes.
may mga nakakancel yung lisensya, nagkakaroon uli ng lisensya. So yun ang gusto ko, yung operations namin na dapat malinis talaga, transparent sa lahat, and matindi yung sense of accountability mula rank and file hanggang sa pinakamataas na posisyon. And accessible dapat lahat. Hindi minamaliit yung OFWs, kundi sila yung parang department nila to tahanan nila ito So pagpasok pa lang ng entrance, dapat ma-feel nila ito ang tahanan ko, dito protected ako, dito naiintindihan nila yung pinagmumulan ko. So it will take a lot of siguro mga parang reorientation din and yung pagpapalakas ng values within and across the DMW, the new department.
Ma'am, I'm trying to imagine the enormity of the job that was being handed over to you. Kasi essentially you're building a department from the ground up, from zero.
Yes. The staffing pattern is very important. Sa ngayon, I don't even know the extent of work that has been put into putting that staffing pattern together. So I guess kung tatanggapin ko tong trabaho na ito, one of the key things is putting the right people in the right positions and making sure na on-site, pag may tumawag na OFW na binubugbog or victim ng domestic violence, may sasagot talaga na fully trained and alam kung anong dapat gawin, anong dapat ipayo.
Yan ang magiging frontline department against illegal recruitment, di ba? Ano kaya yung, can you think of a specific measure na importanteng ilagay na ngayon na wala pa sa sistema?
Yung hihingi kami ng amendment na maipasa, yung third country illegal recruitment. Meron tayong OFW sa Hong Kong, nire-recruit na pupunta sa Russia. Pero dahil beyond na yun sa jurisdiction natin, hindi napaparusahan. So ang gusto sana namin, may extraterritoriality na basta Pilipino ang naging illegal recruiter saan man sa mundo, pwede pa rin maabot ng batas natin.
Will that call for legislation o okay na yun?
Yes.
Kailangan ng
It will call for legislation. Also, we need to look at online illegal recruitment and human trafficking. Kasi ang galing nila ngayon, minsan cut and paste yung mga logos ng departments at POEA. So akala nung aplikante, legit yung ina-applyan nila. So we need to work with social platforms on a joint unified campaign against online trafficking and illegal recruitment of our migrant workers.
Ma'am, can you talk to us more about yung gusto niyo mangyari na reforming the frontline system, yung mga frontliners? Kasi kanina you were talking about dapat yung mga manggagawa natin abroad, pag pumunta sa embahada, feeling nila talaga, I'm at home, this is where I need to go to whenever there's a problem where I work. Yung ganun How do you do that? Parang, and I can imagine how difficult it is doing it by remote control from Manila. Not unless you want to go and visit them, the frontliners every now and then. Medyo matrabaho yun. What do you have in mind for that po? How can we change the system for the better?
Yeah, a lot of education, retraining would have to come in. Again, selection of the right people. Naintindihan ko naman yung political accommodation, pero they would have to go through the process na ang gusto ko nga may mga exams parang sa DFA para ma-professionalize. But again, let me speak as a stakeholder kasi parang nag-aalangan din ako na baka sabihin ng iba napaka-presumptuous naman na naglalatag na, no?
Pero ma'am, inalok naman kayo Okay lang yun. Inalok naman kayo.
Yeah. Oo, pero as a stakeholder muna, isa sa napakasakit na kaso na nahawakan ko, yung isang nanay na bibitayin yung anak niya. So, palipat-lipat siya ng ahensya ng gobyerno to seek help, no? And nabulyawan pa siya kasi yung isang nakausap niya sinabihan siya na napakakulit niya. But, kung titingnan mo, ano pa ba gagawin ng isang nanay, di ba? Kung alam mo, nasa death row yung anak mo. So, yung ganyan na pananaw, yun yung gusto kong baguhin. Gusto ko yung Department of Migrant Workers, may puso. Kasi kung may puso ka, all else will follow.
Balikan ko lang yung online trafficking, kasi medyo bago yan. And you've been working with the NGO for quite some time. May idea, can you give us an idea kung gaano kalala na yung problema ngayon? Kasi yung sa OSEC, matindi lalo, pinatindi ng pandemic. What about in terms of work recruitment?
Yes, kunyari yung mga napupunta ng Syria, nare-recruit yan nasa Dubai na So, ang instruction sa kanila usually online. Hindi ko na sabihin ko anong platform, pero sasabihin sa kanila, punta ka sa ganitong airport, hintayin mo si ganyan, bibigyan ka ng ticket. So, and then meron din ibang instance, yun nga, Hong Kong to Russia, no? Meron din na for Poland naman via Malaysia. Pag labas nila sa bansa, yung communication lagi through either Facebook or anumang social platform. And kaya we have to be also adept kung saan yung saan ng battlefield, and ngayon yung battlefield nasa online. Yung mga workers din natin, gusto ko sana, matagal ko ng dream, na empowered sila from the point of making the decision to leave. Dapat empowered na sila. Hindi nila dapat tinitingnan na, ay utang na loob ko na may recruitment agency na gusto akong kunin. Kasi kikita rin yung recruitment agency sa kanya. Dahil may service fee yan So, yun ang gusto kong na you are valued, you have value. Hindi ito dahil hindi mo kailangan makiusap. May dignidad ka even as an applicant for overseas work.
Yung legal system natin, meron na bang laws in place? Kasi yung sa OSEC, yung sa online sexual exploitation of children, ang sabi ng mga advocates kulang pa daw yung batas What about sa ganyan, sa work recruitment? Meron na ba sa legal system natin na sapat na batas to fight that problem, online recruitment?
Yeah, meron naman tayong mga batas, ano, but it's so hard to prove. Yung human trafficking kasi yung element ng exploitation, yun ang mahirap ma-prove. Kaya karamihan, illegal recruitment ang bagsak. Isa pang kailangan din dyan, yung forced labor trafficking. Yung iba, hindi alam ko ano yung forced labor trafficking. Yung pagkuha ng passport, yung pag-confiscate ng cellphone, yung walang day of rest, lahat yan elements na yan ng forced labor trafficking. Pero even on-site, kahit yung mga labor attachés natin, yung nasa embassy, ang tingin pa lang din dyan ay contract violation. Pero kung titingnan mo, may criminal aspect na dapat yan. So, yes, dapat pagtibayin pa and dapat isang lente lang ang tinitingnan. Kung illegal recruitment, okay. Pero kung human trafficking, kung tumawid na yan into human trafficking, dapat malinaw din yung elemento that made it that way.
Ma'am, would it be, I know you're asking for a little bit more time for reflection and discernment, but do we take it to mean that you're partial to accepting or you're leaning towards accepting? Or is that too early to say?
Probably next week, I would have a clearer parang decision point, no? Kasi I'll be talking to some, sabihin na natin mga influencers, yung mga matagal ko na rin nakakatrabaho sa sector namin. Kasi Ka-Ed and Ami, alam nyo naman na matagal na ako dyan, but I don't want to contribute to I don't want to be a part of the problem. So unless I am sure that I will have enough support for the reforms that I want to do, then hindi ko siya papasukin. Kasi ayoko rin naman na maging source ng divisiveness, and
Yes, ma'am.
gusto ko maging unifying factor ako, lalo na sa pagtatag ng bagong department.
Ma'am,
Pero whatever your decision, tuloy naman yung NGO ninyo, di ba? Tuloy
Ay,
kayo.
oo.
How is it doing? Huh? How is it doing? Mas maraming problema ba ngayon? We're reopening the economy, yung buong mundo nagbubukas uli.
Yes. Sa ngayon, hindi masyado. Dahil precisely because of that, ngayon pa lang nagbubukas. And also dahil sa suspension ng pagpapadala ng domestic workers sa Saudi Arabia, bumaba rin yung cases ng mga humihingi ng tulong. But I heard na mataas pa rin yung number of OFWs na nasa shelter natin. So, yeah, ang isang challenge yan yung pagbubukas uli ng global economy. Ang dami pa rin demand for our workers. Paano mo mahinto yung human trafficking and illegal recruitment?
Ma'am, tapos, but by any chance, were you given some sort of a deadline? I don't know if that's the right word for it, or at least a timetable by which you have to make a decision?
Nabanggit lang na parang yung proclamation kasi yata ni Presidente, hindi ko rin alam kung kailan mangyayari yun.
Yeah.
Pero parang yun yung inauguration.
Opo.
Pero may presidential proclamation, di ba?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Next week
hindi
po
pa nga
yun,
nangyayari yun. So, I'm guessing that we still have a bit of time. But I think we will take our cue naman from Attorney Vic Rodriguez. Pag sinabi niya, time's up, ano ba talaga?
Touch move na, touch move.
Oo.
Talaga ate.
Yes, ma'am.
Oo, ano ba, ating?
Yes,
So,
ma'am,
yun.
but at the
Oo,
same time,
we're
ma'am, kasi-
in contact naman with each other.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, but at the same time kasi you also said kanina that you want to make sure that you have the support that you would need in order to make reforms. I'm wondering lang po what kind of, in tangible terms, what kind of support or guarantees are you looking for that would assure you of that kind of a support?
Basically, what I need is yung parang that they will contribute. They are comfortable enough with me that they will contribute their ideas towards putting this department together. Yun lang naman yung uri ng support na kailangan ko. It's really a festival of new ideas na out of the box and yet doable for this new department. Ayoko na dekahon uli kung ano yung nagawa before, yun lang yung uulitin namin. If I accept this position, I am fully aware of the enormity of the task involved. So I also would like to make sure that I have the sector behind me.
Okay, maraming salamat, Ma'am Susan Toots Ople, Overseas Filipino Workers Advocate. Ingat po parati, and we hope
Thank
to hear good
you.
news from you.
Salamat, Ami. Salamat, Ed.
Thank you po.
Bye-bye.
Ingat. So please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back. Welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News, and now joining us is former Supreme Court spokesman, Attorney Theodore Te. Attorney Te, of course, was also the lawyer who filed the petition yesterday or the other day against Bongbong Marcos with the Supreme Court. Sir, Attorney Te, welcome to the Chiefs, and actually, welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good evening, Attorney.
Salamat, Ed.
Magandang gabi po.
Salamat, Ami. Good to be back.
Yes, sir. Sir, just to be clear, sir, yung final po ninyo kahapon was a petition for the cancellation, di ba? Cancellation of the certificate of candidacy. With the TRO.
It's actually a petition to review. So certiorari na siya from the denial of the COMELEC of our original petition to cancel. Yes. Pero
okay.
petition for review na yung final.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm wondering lang, sir, what arguments or what new arguments did you put forth before the Supreme Court versus, for example, the arguments that you made with the COMELEC?
The main issue Ed, in any certiorari before the Supreme Court, no? Kasi review na yan eh. So is error or abuse of discretion. So yun po yung inargue namin na sa pananaw namin, una, nagkamali yung COMELEC doon sa desisyon nila at merong grave abuse of discretion dahil hindi nila sinunod yung mga previous rulings, no, ng Korte Suprema doon sa mga issue patungkol katulad nito. So actually dalawang issue lang naman ang pwedeng i-raise on appeal, on review actually to the Supreme Court.
Can you cite the previous cases na binaliwala ng COMELEC to merit your accusation of abuse of discretion?
Yes, Ami. Ang cases kasi ng Korte Suprema, no, may mga cases na sila on cancellation. Among them, Makiling, Chua, Halos Hos, no. There's quite a lot, but siyempre wala pa for president because this is the first time that cancellation of COC for a presidential aspirant has reached the Supreme Court. So, admittedly, there is no decision on cancellation of COC for a presidential aspirant. But sa tingin namin, yung mga cases that have been decided by the Supreme Court before on previous cancellation cases would apply. At least that's what we're arguing.
Yung mga cases nun involving the qualifications of Fernando Po Jr. and Grace po, ano yung mga petition na yun? No? Kasi nag-rule doon ng Supreme Court.
Apa. Pero magkaiba po yun kasi they go into these are disqualifications, ano? As far as I recall them.
Yes.
Apa. Sa amin po ay cancellation based on material misrepresentation. So, sa ilalim po ng COMELEC rules, the only ground for a cancellation petition is material misrepresentation. Ibig sabihin, hindi totoo yung sinabi dun sa certificate.
Yes.
So, iba ito dun sa disqualification cases.
Yes.
Actually, sir.
Pero yung sinasabi ng may detalyado explanation ng COMELEC kung bakit mali daw yung argument nyo. And nung umakyat sa en banc, ayun din ang sinabi nila na mali daw yung interpretation ninyo. This is related to the tax dodging case, di ba? Anong bagong argumento pa?
Of course, we don't agree with the COMELEC.
Yes.
And that is why we are saying that the COMELEC's position is wrong. And that is exactly the point of a petition for review.
Sir,
At kasama pa rin dyan yung moral turpitude issue, no? Which is quite subjective. Hindi siya kasama.
Hindi po.
Okay.
Hindi po. That is not included in cancellation. Hindi po. Disqualification po 'yun. Hindi po kasama sa cancellation 'yun. Ang issue lang po sa cancellation, isa lang po ang issue sa cancellation.
Okay.
Meron po bang hindi totoo doon sa sinabi niya? 'Yun lang po 'yun. That's the only issue in a cancellation case. Material misrepresentation.
So yun yung
lang.
issue lang dyan, yung conviction niya for tax dodging.
Dalawang item yung sinabi namin na hindi totoo doon sa kanyang certificate, no? One is what we call item 11, which is contained in the certificate itself that says I am eligible for the office that I am running for. The second is box 22, which requires a yes or no answer. In that yes or no answer, nakalagay lang doon, have you been convicted of a crime that involves perpetual disqualification? Ang sagot na doon, no. At dahil nga may conviction siya na malinaw, final yon, regardless of the penalty, regardless of the nature of the offense, may conviction siya, and the conviction under the tax code, no, that
Naghang.
oh, yeah.
Naghang ba
Sir,
o yung
can you
computer
still
ko
hear us?
naghang? Naghang siya.
Yeah.
Pero yun yung yun yung automatic disqualification, yun ang pinag-argumentohan, di ba?
Yeah. Whether he's been convicted of a crime that would involve perpetual disqualification.
Yes, yun ang sinasabi nung kabila na hindi daw automatic yun. Di ba?
Yeah. And also,
Ayan na. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hi, sir.
Attorney,
Hi,
yes.
sir. Welcome back, sir.
Sorry, nag-fluctuate yung internet.
It's okay, sir.
Napunta.
It's good to have you
Okay.
back.
Okay,
I'm
yung
not sure where I was.
Yes, sir.
Yung
I'm not sure
second-
where I was when I was.
Sir, you were talking about box 22.
Yung second item po.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Box
Yung box
22.
22 po, nakalagay po doon sa box 22, yes or no lang po siya. Have you been convicted of any offense that involves the accessory penalty of perpetual disqualification? Sa ilalim ng NIRC, which was the basis for his conviction in the RTC and the Court of Appeals, automatic po yung perpetual disqualification upon any conviction. Kaya ang sinasabi namin, yung sagot niya doon na no ay hindi totoo. Dahil ang sagot niya sa no ay hindi totoo, hindi na rin totoo yung item 11 niya na na eligible siya di umano to run. So yun po yung dalawang punto doon sa certificate, on the face of the certificate that we're saying are not true. And therefore, they fall under material misrepresentation and which are grounds for cancellation. Now, the COMELEC did not agree with our argument, so we are raising it up to the Supreme Court to let the Supreme Court decide.
Okay, realistically, ano kayang pinakamabilis na period na pwede itong ma-resolve ng Supreme Court? You've worked with them for quite some time.
Nako, mahirap din sabihin, ano? But we're hoping that the nature of the petition will convince the court to move quickly. But my understanding, no, based on media reports, is that the court is on a writing recess, no? So, writing recess, ibig sabihin nun, they don't meet to discuss cases. They are basically just drafting decisions. But anytime naman po, pwede namang gumawa ng exception si Chief Justice to call for a session kung sakasakali sa tingin niyang mahalaga, no, for the court to meet, no. So we're hoping that the court will consider the petition important enough for the court to meet and discuss the petition, dahil po may hinihingi din po kaming TRO doon sa petition po namin.
Sir, if I remember correctly, ang argument ng COMELEC at that time in relation to your petition was that hindi covered ng perpetual disqualification yung specific case ni Bongbong Marcos because the amendment to the NIRC does not cover the timetable, the time frame for his filing of his ITR, at least in 1985.
Isa yun, and we don't agree with that kasi malinaw po yung batas. Tinrace din naman po namin yung batas at malinaw po na kasama po siya. One of the arguments of one of the positions of the COMELEC is that hindi niya alam, no? Kumbaga there's good faith on his part na malamang hindi niya alam. Ang sinasabi po namin dito, hindi applicable yung good faith, no? Dahil meron din mga cases ng Korte Suprema na hindi pwedeng maging basihan yung good faith sa isang cancellation kung malinaw na dapat alam niya yung ground.
Well, sir, going to Ami's point kanina dun sa the timetables that we are looking at for the Supreme Court to make a decision on this particular case, would it matter if a decision is made or is arrived at, for example, before inauguration or after inauguration of the next president?
Yan hindi pa niya de-decide niya kasi wala pang case, no, involving a presidential aspirant. But in other cases of cancellation that I'm aware of, nag-decide ang Korte Suprema na nakaupo na yung kandidato, meaning at may epekto yung pagkaupo niya, no. Ang naging consequence kasi doon, ang sinasabi ng Korte Suprema, kapag canceled ang COC, parang walang naging kandidato.
Yes, sir.
Ganun yun. As if there was no candidacy. So, if we apply that principle here to this presidential contest, if, for example, there is a proclamation and there is an assumption into office, and then mag-decide ang Korte Suprema later on, halimbawa, na kanselahin ang COC niya, no? The principle might hold. The court might say, and again, I'm speaking hypothetically.
Yes, sir.
No? That there was no valid candidacy in the first place, and since there was no valid candidacy in the first place, therefore the only candidates to be considered are those who actually ran in the presidential contest and got therefore the highest number of votes. No? So ganun kasi yung consequence ng cancellation, unlike a disqualification.
Tapos sir, I've read at least two kinds of doctrines that may be diametrically opposed, but which could be applicable, I suppose, to this case. Again, we're not lawyers, pero I've heard about and I've read about the halos hos ruling, as well the the so-called Aguinaldo doctrine. Can you tell us about them and how they may or may not impact this case?
Yeah, again, yun nga, yung sa halos host, no? Sinight din naman namin yun that yung denial ng yung denial or cancellation ng COC, no? Of a candidate's disqualification falls under the COMELEC's jurisdiction, and the COMELEC can actually cancel motu proprio at any time the candidate's COC, no? Sabi doon, notwithstanding any petition, kahit na walang challenge, pwedeng i-cancel. So yun din yung isang punto na sinasabi namin na mali yung COMELEC, kasi hindi naman actually kailangan ng petition, dapat yung COMELEC mismo gumalaw, no? Kung malinaw na merong cancellation. The other ruling that we're actually invoking, Ed, is makiling, no? Which actually also talks about cancellation. And ang epekto nga doon is that it results in no valid candidacy.
Okay, if the candidacy was invalid in the first place, will it matter pa? Kasi sabi nila yung period daw for the issuance of the Supreme Court ruling will matter, no? Kung sino yung papalit. Pero kung hindi pala nangyari yung cancellation, di ba dapat kahit anong period, dapat yung susunod na kandidato ang magiging presidente? Dahil ang sinasabi nila, kung nakapag-oath-taking na raw yung vice president, yun na magiging presidente. Pero kung invalidated yung pagkapanalo nung presidente, edi kahit anong time, yung pangalawang kandidato ang panalo. Tama ba yun?
Yun ang tingin namin. Of course, we hope the court will agree. We hope the court will agree with that. But that is our position, that if the court invalidates the COC, it is as if no candidacy, and therefore, we don't go to the so-called successor principle.
Yes.
We go to the second highest number of votes.
So yung oath-taking ng vice president will be immaterial, no? Ang magta-take over pa rin yung pangalawang kandidato. Yung kandidato who garnered the second highest number dahil invalidated yung number one.
Effectively, it is not the second highest number of votes. Effectively, it is the highest number of votes. Kasi the effect of cancellation is to consider the votes cast as stray votes. And therefore, the remaining candidates, the remaining valid candidates, would be considered, and the one with the highest number of votes among the remaining candidates would then be proclaimed the president. Ganun ang position po namin, and again, we're hoping the court will agree.
Madidelay lang yung proclamation. Saka, paano kung ma-proclaim na pala yung before the ruling, Supreme Court ruling is issued? Paano ko i-proclaim ng Congress yung presidente? Tapos ma-invalidate yung candidacy. Anong impact nun?
Yes, and again, that's not something that has yet already been decided, no? And we're hoping that the court can decide and clarify on that, no? Kasi the court can exercise its jurisdiction kasi it's reviewing, no? If the court considers it still a live issue after proclamation, and the court acts on the cancellation, then the court will have to specify kung anong effect nung cancellation on the president as proclaimed.
So, sir,
pero citing previous rulings sa mga electoral protest, kasi alam ko, may natatandaan ako marami ng ruling na in-invalidate yung candidacy, matatapos na yung term eh. Three-year term ng mga local officials, invalidated yung buo na kaya lang hindi na nga makaupo yung nanalo. Paano yun? Pwede rin mangyari kaya.
That's right. That's right. In Congress nangyari yun, no?
And
in fact, there are some
governments, a lot.
That's right. That's right. Congress and local po. Pero wala pa sa presidency. And therefore, in some instances there have been yung a few days na lang na iwan, nag-oath na yung pangalawa, no, yung nakakuha ng highest number of votes. So again, no, we're talking hypothetically because it has never happened with a presidential aspirant. So we're saying that if the same principle holds for local and Congress, then, and if the court says it holds for the presidency, then ganun din po yung i-apply dapat nila.
So, sir, would or could the numbers from the May 9 elections have any bearing on any decision by the Supreme Court? I'm referring, of course, to well, yung margin na nakuha ni Bongbong Marcos dun sa unofficial count versus yung nakuha ng ibang kandidato. I ask that especially in relation to what they call yung condonation doctrine or well, sabi nga nila the Aguinaldo doctrine, where supposedly yung election ng isang tao in effect condones already past misconduct.
Wala na yung condonation, Ed. That has already been overturned by the Supreme Court. No? Tapos na yun, hindi na kino-consider. And condonation only applies to the administrative cases.
Okay.
So actually, the court itself, no, in previous cases, has already indicated or hinted na hindi lang naman dapat yung number of votes cast that will be considered, kasi dapat i-consider din ng court kung ano yung sinasabi ng batas, ano yung sinasabi ng Constitution. In one particular case, the court said, the will of the people as expressed through the ballot cannot cure the vice of ineligibility. The court also said in another case, elections are more than a numbers game. So the principle should be whether the COC itself resulted in a valid candidacy. And if the COC did not result in a valid candidacy, then as a matter of principle, regardless of the number of votes, no, it should not affect. At least yun yung tingin namin.
Yes, sir. So the numbers should not be a variable. That's what you're saying. Should not be a variable for consideration in this case.
It should not. It should not. At least that's our position.
Okay, ulitin ko lang yung tanong ko dun sa period, no? You're asking for TRO. Gaano kabilis, hindi naman kailangan humingi ng sagot dyan yung Supreme Court, no? How fast can they issue a TRO sa Congress canvassing for the presidential race?
Mabilis kung gusto talaga nila. Again, no, if the case has already been raffled to someone and the justice in charge recommends a TRO, then it can actually issue immediately a TRO. You are correct. They do not need a comment from the Solicitor General.
Yes.
So it can be issued as soon as possible.
Yes. Pero yung main petition, hihingi yan ng sagot sa kabila, sasagutin kayo, tapos hihingi na naman ba sa kabila? Gaano kabilis yun? Kung priority siya, anong shortest period for that?
Again, the court has the discretion to impose, to require a period, no, require a comment within a period. Usually, yung ginagawa nila pag urgent, no, ginagawa nilang inextendable yung period, tapos ginagawa nila the shortest possible. So anywhere from 10 to 15 days yan ang bibigay nila. Kasi gagawin nilang inextendable. Although there are times na they require a shorter period. Pero again, depende kasi yun sa recommendation ng justice in charge. Pero usually pag urgent talaga at may time period na hinahabol, ginagawa ng korte minsan inextendable yung period para kailangan ma-file within that period.
10 to 15 working days.
10 to 15 days po.
Working days.
Calendar po. Calendar.
Okay.
Calendar.
Kasi tinatanong
Calendar.
ko because I want to know kung posibleng magkaroon ng order before noon of June 30.
Well, on the decision itself, on the merits
On the
itself.
decision, no? Kasi appeal pa naman yun eh. Kahit yung first yung first ruling.
Yung TRO. Again, the TRO, that can be issued anytime if the court wants. And so we are basically just waiting. Kung
No,
if the court
yung
wants
main
to issue.
petition. Yung main petition. Kasi pag pinagbigyan kayo, maa-appeal yan, di ba? Pwedeng mag-MR dyan yung kabila.
Pwede mag-MR, yes. Oo. Again, it's hard for me to pin it down, Ami, in terms of number of days eh. Kasi may discretion talaga yung court to either shorten or lengthen the periods, no? So typically comment, let's say sabihin mo na 10 days, no? 10 days inextendable. So kung mag-require siya na 10 days, we don't know if it has issued an order already. So let's say May 18, sabihin mo na 10 days, so May 28, no? And then the court, for example, considers the petition. Now, if the court does not want to set it for oral argument, then the court can already start writing the decision. Pero may option pa rin for the court to consider it on oral argument. We don't know. So yun po yung mga variables that go in. So I don't know, if I can, for example, say, lalabas ba ang decision bago mag June 30? We're hoping. But again, it's not within our control.
Yes, but it cannot be ruled out, no?
Well, it cannot be ruled out. It is possible.
Yes.
It is possible.
Yan lang naman.
Yes, it is possible.
Para lang hindi masyadong magulo dito sa bansa natin.
It is possible. Yes.
Are you hopeful? How hopeful are you? Considering the track record sa COMELEC.
Well, again, yung Supreme Court kasi ibang bagay 'yon no? So the Supreme Court will review the COMELEC, no? And usually kasi yung Supreme Court pag COMELEC medyo mas masusi sila doon kasi siyempre eleksyon ang pinag-uusapan, no? So they're a bit more strict siguro, if I may call it that, no? So let's just say I'm cautiously optimistic. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Sir, pahabol na lang, sir. Kasi we went through several petitions already against Bongbong Marcos. One for cancellation, one for disqualification. I don't recall anymore if this falls under your petition or under the other group's petition. I remember there was one petition that had mention of yung estate tax liability of the estate of Marcos Sr. na unpaid. I'm trying to recall nga if it was under your group or the other group.
We referred to it. We referred to it, but it's not the main ground. We referred to it.
Okay, so it was your group. Yeah. I do remember that.
Yeah, but it's not it. Yes, but it's not the main ground. It's not the main reason for the petition. But we referred to the estate tax that remained unpaid.
Mm-hmm. That can't be a ground for moving the case forward from your perspective.
Not directly, because again, the only issue here is material misrepresentation. And besides that, really, that the payment, the enforcement of the liability on the estate tax is really up to the BIR.
Mm-hmm.
Pero may binabalak nun, before this, pahabol ko na rin yun, before this, si candidate Isko Moreno, balak nila sanang magpetition sa Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court to compel the BIR to make the Marcos family pay the 23 billion. Sabi nila, pwede naman daw yung tuloy-tuloy kahit presidente na siya. Is that correct?
Again, I can't speak for what their legal theory might be, but if they're saying compel, I can imagine that they're probably thinking of mandamus.
Mandamus, yes.
Kung mandamus kasi kailangan clear duty, no? Meaning walang ibang pwedeng gawin yung agency except to do this, no? So if they are saying that the only thing that the BIR needs to do is really to enforce payment, then possibly they can argue mandamus, no? Now the suit will not be directly against Mr. Marcos, for example, no? Because it will be BIR. Kasi ang ide-direct niya BIR hindi si Marcos, no? So yun yung magiging if ever yun yung magiging legal theory. So I don't know how the court will react to that.
Okay.
Maraming salamat, Attorney Teddy Te. Sir, always good to see you again at ingat po parati and good luck.
Thank you, Attorney.
Salamat Ed, salamat Ami.
Yes,
good to be with you again. Thank you.
That'll be all for this midweek edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Ed Lingao.
I'm Ami Paminton of the Philippine Star, and we are One News. Editora, baka